took a while before it actually. It was like it was that when we first wrote it, the song was a kind of little bit sounded a bit trad, didn't it?
Yeah.
And it took a while before we had to strip it back to make it work. So it was kind of kicking around for a few weeks, and then we kind of did this kind of stripped back version with the guitar on its own at the start and just the voice and stuff. And when we had it like that, it suddenly worked and sounded less trad, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point, I think it sounded like
the passing chord, passing notes.
It's just a really boring thing. But it's like with those chords go major to minor, it sounds minor to major. It's very 60s-y kind of thing. And in order to make that not sound cheesy, we had to kind of strip it back. And as soon as we had that version, then it did sound like the end of a record. It sounded kind of like just Brett and Richard in a room. And it started small, and then we could go take it somewhere.
But the whole end section was something that we came up with after we'd written the song. It wasn't sort of like we didn't kind of write that as part of the song. It was sort of like just sort of. Yeah, I can't remember at what point we decided that it was going to be the last song, but when we decided that, when it felt like it was this closing moment, we thought, well, we need to kind of end it with
some end credits.
Yeah, just a sort of big widescreen sort of thing, and there was lots of the, you two can talk about it, but the way the music works is sort of like the melodies sort of reference other melodies in the album. Which is kind of, what's that called when you do that? What's that? There's a name for it, isn't there? Anyway,
Overblown.
Prog?
No, it's not. It's something. It's like it's something in musicals that they I can't remember what it's called.
I like the on Still Life, the fact at the end of Dogman Star, the fact that on the record there's actually none of the band playing. They've kind of left the room, and the last minute and a half or something is just somebody else.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of good that
quite
Brett
appropriate.
kind of at the end of the Blue Hour, Brett kind of wanders off, and the band kind of carry on playing until they kind of realise that he's gone.
In the dressing room
with
Brandy.
It's just going to be great. I'll be in the hotel before you get off the stage.
The funny thing about it is, because that last bit, it makes musical sense because it's all these pieces taken, moved round and melded. But I didn't know that when you played it to me and you sent me the chords. So it was literally, I got this sheet of music with the chords on it. And it's a new chord every 4 bars for 4 minutes.
You love it.
And they're all kind of D diminished, sussed fourth with an E flat bass. And I'm just looking thinking, what the fuck is this?
Just play a D. Just look at the first bit.
I know.
Play that.
But just in terms of it, was like, what is he writing here? And it's only when you hear the whole record you kind of like, oh, that's from there and that's from there, and it all flows really nicely.
We sat down and carefully wrote that as a kind of progressive section that would end up almost like going through the original themes, the first couple of themes that you hear.
It's the highlights at the end of Match of the Day, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah.
It's just the goals.
Yeah, and it all comes full circle. That was quite deliberate, and I just I enjoy working on things like that.
That was the easiest big complicated thing I've done actually. First time I heard it, I thought, I've got that. Just like that.
Yeah.
And I did it.
I wish I did.
Did you find the chords a bit tricky? I
did.
Yeah.
But that's my most enjoyable song on the album. Just playing that one, recording that one.
I remember you nailing that in the studio pretty quickly.
Just like that.
Yeah, exactly, and then immediately getting in a cab home.
Thanks, see ya.
No chance to say goodbye.
well, this last cymbal is still ringing. Yeah.
Puff of smoke.
I hate your bar, man. But I like the sort of theme of that song lyrically. The kind of the kind of two people, the imagery of it, sort of like throwing their possessions away. There's something kind of, I don't know, it just really resonates with me. It was inspired by an artist called Michael Landy that did a piece called Breakdown, where he basically destroyed everything he owned. Kind of, he did it in a big, somewhere in Oxford Street. Didn't he?
A big shop. He got a shop front, didn't he? One of those tatty shop fronts where they sell the.
And he got this big sort of industrial kind of, I don't know, threshing machine or something, and literally just put everything he owned in there. I quite like that idea. That sort of anti-consumerist sort of statement sort of thing.
Except he has to buy everything again. Though.
Yeah, and there's an interesting documentary actually about post that, where he has to kind of go into a bank and kind of prove he's him and stuff like this. And
he's got absolutely nothing. No.
Yeah. So I quite like it. So the kind of characters in that song are kind of like destroying their possessions. And there's something quite powerful about that. I think it's sort of more coherent in lots of ways. It was definitely from our point of view, it was sort of, we were more kind of like conscious of what we were doing. I remember making Dogman Star, and it was sort of threaded together, and some of it feels like it's possibly more sort of conscious than it actually was. And I think with lots of these things, you sort of make them, and then you sort of fit a story around them afterwards. And that was kind of the case with Dogman Star, really. It was certainly the way that I used to write in those days. And but it happily sort of seemed to sort of fit in this sort of sonic world and this sort of theme world, narrative world. But I think with this, it was much, we were kind of like trying to sort of kind of create something which had an identity. We're much more conscious of what we were doing with this record, sort of thing. And again, that's sort of something that I think that is one of the benefits of age and experience, that you can do that. I think it sets us up in terms of sort of what we don't do rather than what we do. And I don't think we're going to. I think what I'd like to do with the next record is sort of go sideways, or go sort of not back, because that sounds that's the wrong kind of message to deliver. I don't mean in that sense. But just not go further along, drifting out left field kind of thing. I don't think, like we were saying earlier, I don't think there's an appetite to do that. I think it felt like we really needed to make this record. It felt like Night Thoughts needed to be pushed further out left field, and that's what the Blue Hour is, I suppose. But I think we can't go any further out.
Lots of these things are kind of creaking at the seams, aren't they? If they go any further, they become
preposterous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a pretentious record. You know what I mean? It pushes these things, I think, as far as we can go without becoming ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it's a balancing act. But I think we're quite comfortable in those places. But I think to do it any further would be an intellectual thing to do rather than something we felt. I felt there's something simpler.
I'm really proud of it. I think it's quite a kind of challenging record. I think it's quite complex, but I think it's exactly the sort of record that 25 years into our career we should be making. I kind of I look at sort of lots of other bands, our contemporaries, and the ones that are still making records, and it doesn't feel to me like they're doing anything else except sort of like just sort of doing the same sort of thing that they've always done. And I think with Suede, I've always sort of wanted to try and be a bit more ambitious than that, try and push it out somewhere else where it's not quite comfortable,